Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rav Shmuel. I'm back in my office for this year's 10-minute Torah. And today we start from the beginning again. Parsha Berieshit. So hope you're doing well. Hope you've all been, and I assume you have been, not just inscribed, but sealed in the book of life. And we start our year of studying Torah all over again. So I know there's a lot that's happened this year, not just in the world, but here with Temple Shalom. We've had a fairly good year, and maybe the future looks very good. We've looking at maybe peace or some type of resolution, at least in the Middle East. And I'm very happy for that. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm very proud to be a Jew. I really am. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of Torah. I'm proud that we're an ancient people. We're the oldest. I don't know that there's anybody else that's as old as we are living on this planet. Maybe the Native Americans, okay, some of the indigenous tribes that are here, but we're here. Our society is still here. And I no doubt in my mind we're going to be here for a long, long time. So, and I want to thank the people in my life that love me. My wife, Rachel, my son Matthew, my other son Robert, uh, my daughter-in-law Laurel, my grandkids Autumn and Troy and Jack, my granddaughter-in-law um, Phelan, and my great-granddaughter Olive. And I've got a new family. My daughter Katie and her husband Mike and her four daughters Kennedy, FK, AP, likes initials, Frankie Kate and Anna Presley and Sterling, and um, her parents, partner parents, if you will, whatever we are, who are Deborah and Richard, and it's just I just feel so wonderful that my family has expanded. And I wish the same for all of you. Life is beautiful. God is beautiful. He's blessed. And I'm starting to use that word. I feel blessed. I resisted that word. It just sounds so, I don't know, cheesy to me. But, when something like this happens, you really appreciate life and you appreciate the things and, all the challenges that go around to achieving in life and growing and establishing a base for yourself and your family and your friends. It's just wonderful. Okay, so before I start crying, because I get emotional, in the Torah, everybody's always crying, right? Jacob meets up with Esau, and what do? They fall on each other's shoulders and weep, right? Joseph, his estranged brothers come back after like 12 years, and there he is, and finally reveals himself, and it was one big cry fest. So it is what it is. All right. So this year is a triennial year one, which means we're going to read, in most cases, the first third of each portion in the conservative movement. There are some exceptions where we'll read more. As you've just seen, the last three parshas of Deuteronomy, we read the whole thing because they're short. So in the first parsha, of Genesis, it's basically the creation. It's the first chapter, the 6 days of creation, and then we have the first few verses of the second chapter, which is Shabbat, which is about rest. Now, one of the things I like to talk about with this is how, in Judaism anyway, science and religion are basically the same. We do not differentiate. There's no need to. If you look at it one way, the ancients really didn't have the technology or the technological understanding or the technological jargon or vocabulary to really describe the phenomena around them. So they looked at spiritual explanations. And in a sense, it's exactly the same thing. One of the things I like to talk to people about is, okay, I've got this table in front of me. I like to ask people, tell me why you can't put your hand through that table. Why you can't put your hand through that table. And they say it's solid. I said, oh, is it? Because my understanding is that what is the table made out of? Oh, wood. And okay. What about beyond the wood? What is wood made out of? Oh, it's made of fiber and okay, and keep going. And now we're down to molecules. And now we're down to atoms. What is an atom? An atom is protons, neutrons in the center, and electrons someplace around in the outer shells of the atom. But the bottom line is an atom is 99% or 99.9% space. The reason it looks solid is because it's moving so fast. Otherwise, this table is 99% space. But from our level of perception, this is a solid entity. We cannot put our hand through it because our hands are solid too. The point is that there is a lot of things beyond our perception that we really have a hard time understanding. And now that we've evolved technologically, we can understand that stuff. Okay, so when we read in the Torah that God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and he separated the light and the darkness. Okay, what was that? Well, if you ask students, modern students who study science, they will say that the current theory of the origin of the universe is the Big Bang theory, that there was this bang and all of a sudden there was creation and then it started to form. Well, the bang is what God said. Can't you look at it that way? Now, how long was a day? Well, we think of a day as a 24-hour cycle or 23 hours, 56 minutes. Okay, if you're on Mars, it's a little shorter, right? A day's a little shorter. If you're on Neptune, it's really short because it revolves pretty quick, and the year's a lot longer. So, and on Earth, we Hebrews, we Jews base our calendar on the moon. It's a lunar cycle. Of course, it's 354 days, and that's 11 days short of a solar cycle. So every 3 years or so, we have to add the extra month, to bring it back up so that all the holidays are in the right season. Well, could you imagine being on Neptune? It's the lunar calendar. Well, we sure got a lot of moons up here. Which one are we going to use, right? What if you're on Mars? There's two of them, Phobos and Deimos, right? Lunar calendar. Well, this tribe uses this moon and this tribe uses that moon. Okay, more power to you, right? So, science and religion. Okay. So, what is a day? When we think of a day, there's two ways to think of a day. There's that 24 or so cycle, but we also think of a day as daylight, right? Day as opposed to night. You have darkness, you have light, just like the first day. And what was that light? Well, there was no sun, right? Not till the fourth day or so, or the third day. So, something like that, right? So, what was that like? Photons, energy, right? That was the light. The darkness was the absence, or it was maybe dark matter, maybe it was black holes, who knows, right? The point is that we use religion in order to explain physical phenomena, okay? So, where does God fit into that? People pray to God. Well, there had to be some force that started the whole process. There has to be a creative force with the intent to create laws. Now, did it happen by chance? Who knows?